I used to work night shifts, so I slept during the day. That's important. It started with sounds, soft ones, scratching, shuffling. I told myself it was rats. The house was old, and old houses make noise. Still, the sounds always came from above my bedroom, like footsteps carefully placed. At first, it only happened once or twice a week, short bursts, almost polite, like whoever or whatever it was knew when to stop. I even bought traps. They stayed untouched. Then the sounds started happening only when I was asleep. I'd wake up with that feeling you get when someone's been watching you. My chest would be tight, heart racing, but everything looked normal. The door was locked, windows shut, nothing disturbed. Until one afternoon I woke up to my phone moved from my nightstand to the floor. I stared at it for a long time, trying to remember if I'd knocked it off in my sleep. I hadn't. I'm careful with my phone. Always have been. I checked the rest of the room. Nothing else looked wrong. But that's when the paranoia started. Food went missing next. Not entire meals, just enough that I could convince myself I was imagining it. A bite taken from a sandwich. A can of soup I knew I hadn't opened. I started marking things, taking pictures of my fridge before going to sleep. One morning, the picture didn't match. When I came home early that day, the house felt different. Not messy, just used. The air was stale, like someone had been there too long. That's when I noticed the attic hatch. It wasn't wide open, just enough to notice, just enough to make my stomach drop. I grabbed a flashlight, climbed the ladder, and pushed the hatch up. The smell hit me first. Human sweat, old food, something sour. Then the light caught movement, fabric shifting slightly. I froze. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure whoever was up there could hear it. Behind the insulation was a man, skinny, filthy, eyes wide like a cornered animal. He didn't move, didn't speak. I dropped the flashlight and climbed down, locked myself in my bedroom, and called the police with shaking hands. They pulled him out 20 minutes later. He'd been living up there for almost a month. He knew my schedule, knew when I slept, knew how deeply. One officer told me he'd come down through the hatch while I slept on the couch some afternoons. Watched me, sometimes stood over me. The scariest part? He never stole anything valuable, just food, time, space. Like he wanted to pretend he lived there too. This happened when I was driving home from a late shift around 1 a.m. rural road. No streetlights, just trees and fog. I noticed headlights behind me, far back at first. That wasn't unusual, but they stayed there. Same distance, same speed. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. I slowed down. They slowed down. I sped up. They sped up. That's when I felt it. That tight, sinking feeling in your stomach that tells you this isn't random anymore. I made a right turn onto a back road I almost never use. The headlights followed immediately. I turned the radio off so I could think. My hands were slick on the steering wheel. I could hear my own breathing. I told myself not to panic. Maybe they lived nearby. Maybe I was being dramatic. So I passed my own street. That was when their headlights shut off completely. No gradual dimming. Just gone. The darkness behind me felt heavier than before. Like something was still there, just unseen. I didn't stop driving. I didn't slow down. I drove straight to a brightly lit gas station and parked directly under the lights. I sat there for almost 20 minutes before going home. The next morning, police knocked on my door. They asked about my car. asked if I'd noticed anyone following me. Then they told me what they'd found. A man was hiding in the woods near my street, watching the road, watching houses. He had gloves, duct tape, a notebook with names and license plates. Mine was circled. They said he'd been targeting people who worked late shifts, people who drove alone at predictable times. If I had turned into my driveway that night, they said he would have approached my car while I was distracted. I still think about how close he was, how easily routine almost got me killed. To this day, I never drive straight home if something feels off. I live in an apartment complex. Thin walls, lots of noise. One night, around 3 a.m., I heard a child crying outside my door. Soft at first, then louder. "Help me!" The voice sounded exhausted, scared, real. My first instinct was guilt. What kind of person ignores a child asking for help? I cracked the door open and looked into the hallway. Empty. The crying stopped. Then it started again. Closer. From the stairwell this time. Something about it felt wrong. The timing. The way the words repeated. Almost exactly the same each time. I shut the door and locked it. The crying continued for another minute. Then it stopped completely. No footsteps, no doors opening. Just silence. I waited 10 minutes before calling the police. When they arrived, they searched the stairwell and found a man crouched behind the railing, hoodie pulled tight around his face. No child. The officer told me he'd already broken into 2 apartments that week. Same method, same voice. He'd wait until someone opened the door wide enough. They said if I'd stepped into the hallway, he would have rushed me. Ever since then, I don't trust sounds at night, because sometimes fear doesn't break in loudly. Sometimes it asks for help.